breaking news this morning that Piers Morgan has had his Ofcom complaint rejected. Basically, the one that said that he had upset the Duchess of Sussex. He said, "I'm delighted Ofcom has endorsed my right to disbelieve the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's incendiary claims to Oprah Winfrey, many of which have been proven to be untrue. This is a resounding victory for free speech and a resounding defeat for Princess Pinocchio. Do I get my job back?"
Well, that's fantastic news, Mike. The Free Speech Union wrote a very strong letter to Ofcom defending Piers Morgan and saying it would be absolutely ridiculous if he was censured in any way for expressing his robust views about that interview that Harry and Meghan did with Oprah Winfrey. I think Piers was ahead of the curve, quite frankly. Yeah. I think lots of people seemed momentarily taken in by them, but I think in the weeks that have passed since, their popularity has waned somewhat. Now, it would have been absolutely absurd if Ofcom had censured Piers Morgan or Good Morning Britain in any way as a result of his remarks on that programme, and I'm very glad that they haven't done so.
And what I think is also good is that the news from the Ofcom sort of decision and from ITV as well, they say this: "We also consider that the comments about race in the programme could have been potentially highly offensive, but that the comments were sufficiently contextualised." And I think that's really important because, up until now, Toby, we've had this kind of onslaught of ridiculous fascism for speech, whereby you're more or less told, we can't talk about that, you can't mention that. Now this is telling you, as long as you're in context, you can.
Absolutely. The idea that anyone who criticises Meghan Markle must be racist, and that any criticism of her is a form of racism, is just ridiculous. That seems to be the smokescreen she's tried to put up to deflect any criticism of her. They even made that, she and her husband even made that criticism of the royal family in that interview. It's perfectly possible to criticise Meghan because she's ghastly in all sorts of ways, right, without being racist. Yeah. And the evidence that the British media's criticisms of her since she married Harry are evidence of the British media's systemic racism. I don't know if you remember, but the chief executive of the Society of Editors had to resign.
Yes, I do remember that.
The interview. He challenged the idea
yeah.
That the British media was systemically racist, and that was why they'd been critical of Meghan Markle. And just for challenging that idea and producing some counter evidence, he had to fall on his sword. No, I think we need to approach this with a bit more maturity. And when Meghan plays the race card, we need to see it for what it is, which is an attempt to deflect perfectly legitimate criticisms of her.
Yes, exactly. And for those of us who rightly or wrongly make a living out of having an opinion, you want to be able to express an opinion and give a view without being told by somebody you can't have that opinion. You're not allowed to have that view. You can only have this view.
Well, that's why one of the reasons, Mike, I set up the Free Speech Union. Too many people are being penalised for expressing unfashionable views in the workplace, in universities, at schools. They say something which other people disapprove of, in some cases claim to be offended by, even though what they've said is perfectly lawful. And complaints are made, and they often end up getting into trouble, being kicked out of their university, or even losing their job. In some cases, the police get involved. Someone complains to the police, accuses someone of having committed a hate crime. The police duly investigate, conclude that no crime has been committed, but record the episode as a non-crime hate incident.
Yes.
And if someone is if that person then applies for a job as a teacher or a carer, and their employer has to do an enhanced DBS check, that shows up against their criminal record. The fact that they have committed what the police themselves describe as a non-crime. It's like something out of 1984.
Yeah, absolute madness.
Over 100,000 of these non-crime incidents have been recorded against people's names since 2014 in England and Wales alone. It's absolutely shocking. And one of the things the Free Speech Union is campaigning for is to scrap the recording of these non-crime hate incidents, which are having a very chilling effect on free speech, I think.
Yes. Well, it's a big day for free speech and a good day for free speech, so that's always encouraging.